in Margate, in Queensland. And Mum comes into the breakfast table with the Courier Mail. And she glances at the paper and then she says, "Colin, you've got to read this article on the front page." Now, I should point out that making movies in Australia was a very rare thing at the time, maybe one feature film every 3 years. And I read the article and I said to Mum, "What's the point of showing me this, Mum? I'm a drummer. I'm not an actor. I know nothing about acting." And she said, "Colin, you've been getting up on a stage with these big jazz bands, communicating with your drums. In this instance, the only difference is you're communicating with words. The audience won't be there, but they'll go and see the film, and it's all the same thing. You can do it." So we joined this endless queue in Brisbane and finally got to the front of the queue. Now I should point out that I was dressed in suit, short pants suit with long socks and a tie, brill cream on my hair, and underneath my arm was my scrapbook. And I was so proud of this scrapbook, and I had little reviews of concerts that I'd done. And the page was open at a photograph of me and Gene Krupa, who was possibly one of the most famous drummers that ever got behind a kit of drums. And the producer said to me, "What's that you're holding?" And I said, "That's me and Gene Krupa." And he said, "That's a very nice thing to do, play music," and tapped me on the head, and that was it. So I went outside and joined Mum. We went down to my grandma's place. And it was straight out of this, I should point out, terraline it was made of. The most hideous material invented, I think. And it was straight out of that into some old clothes. And I was playing marbles with my cousin under the house next door. And for some reason, I thought I'll just go back to the cinema because I was inquisitive about what was going on. I thought maybe I could just peer through a window or something and look at the process. And as I'm walking down the side alleyway, because it's all shut up at the front, there's some concrete steps with the fire doors. And the producer that I saw earlier on, he didn't recognize me now because I look nothing like I did earlier on. And there was silence there, and then he said, "What are you doing here?" And I said, "I'm here for the audition." Like I'm no fool, I'm not going to say, "You saw me earlier on, don't you remember, and you didn't think I was right for the role." I just grabbed the opportunity, and he said, "Do you think you'd be any good at this?" And I said, "I think I would." And I bounded up the stairs, and we sat on this concrete step, and we read through a scene from the movie. And later on the actual film set, when I was working on the film, he confided in my mother, that he chose me there and then. He just instinctively thought that I was the right boy for the role. And it was such a privilege to work with seasoned actors, and one of the most enjoyable actors that I ever worked with was Chips Rafferty. because he was so natural. You'd do a scene with Chips Rafferty and you would forget about the camera, you'd forget about the whole process, and it became just like a conversation. And it was really wonderful. Lovely director as well, Anthony Kimmins. And that film led to two other movies, The Scamp with Richard Attenborough, and a third film co-starring along with the little girl that played the original part in The Shara Lee, another very famous Australian movie. But it was a wonderful experience in my life, and there's an interesting little connection between Smiley and the Bee Gees, in as much as Morris relayed the story to me later on, that they lived in Manchester. Dreary weather, and they went along to the cinema to see this film, Smiley, and it was a different world. It was Technicolor, CinemaScope, the freedom of this small town with a little boy and all this sort of thing. And Morris said that in the car, coming back from seeing the movie, that was when the family decided to come to Australia. Now, if the Gibbs had gone to see that movie, maybe they would have gone to Canada. That was a possibility, or America or something like that. But that brought the Gibb family to Australia, and in turn, I met them, and that led to another successful part of my life. And it's so wonderful that the film has lived on all these years. It's not very common, and in the same way the Gibb Brothers songs have lived on all these years. Now, enough of the film business. Let's get back to the music. Now, this next song is one of my favourite Gibb compositions, and also, by the way, one of my favourite arrangements, and the song is called Grease.